Hello, everyone. This is James Morgan. Welcome to the James Morgan Jazz Conversation Series 2026. And the purpose of these videos I'll be posting on the James Morgan Jazz YouTube channel is really to talk to a lot of musicians that I've played with or admire, not just also to find out about their story, their history, where they came from, their journey, but also to hopefully get some insights and wisdom on the video that a lot of new upcoming young musicians that are thinking of a career in music that are currently just sitting in their room doing riffs and posting them online, probably making great money, but that there's value in the organic side of music, which is playing with people in clubs, touring. It's a lot of hard work, but it's also gratifying. And so I hope this series imparts a lot of that out there. And by the time you hear this particular conversation, the conversations will have premiered on January 1st, 2026, with my special guest, Gary Husband, drummer, keyboardist. It's nearly a 2-hour conversation, very in depth, and I recommend you watch all of them. And my guest today is a bassist, bass guitarist. His name is Nathan Brown. He's a composer, music educator, and he freelances as one of the top calls in Southern California. And he's originally from Detroit, Michigan, and he's also a self-proclaimed cappuccino addict. You can see him on the split screen there. He hasn't had his cappuccino yet, so we caught him off guard. He began playing around the age of 15 seriously. He started as a celloist, later moved to horns, which is basically a tuba and a euphonium, but he discovered he wasn't getting enough dates to the prom doing that, so he wanted to switch to bass. He did study at Michigan State University, moving over to study under a program, jazz program, or master music program, Northern Illinois. I think it's Ron Carter influenced program. And he's been tearing it up ever since. He has a very unique, intelligent jazz style. He plays a lot of different kinds of music, from rock, blues, jazz, and then he also attributes a lot of his education from playing in Detroit. And he was with a flute player, Alexander Zonik, I think that's how you pronounce his name, and from 1986 to 93. And during that time, he encountered playing with a lot of great musicians, Bob James, Earl Klug, Kirk Whalum, and later moved to Southern California, where he joined forces with people he had known from the East Coast. Scott Wilkie Band. They play every year. They do a nice Christmas show. I recommend you check it out. And he's a primary bassist for Coco Montoya for many years. We'll talk a little bit about that, how that all happened. And he also has played with Brian Simpson and Patrick Yondal and the James Morgan Jazz Band, among many others. And he's a regular bass player at the Rock Church that he is dedicated to. He has his own music out. I recommend you check it out on Spotify and other platforms. He's got Tacos and Tea, This Place Hotel, and Oxygen, my personal favorite, that he's composed and put out there. So check it out. But without further ado, here is Nathan Brown. Thanks for joining me on this series. How you doing today?
Hey man, hey, that's cool, man. You did some homework there. I'm doing good, man. There's a couple of things just I want to
clarify.
That's amazing that you got all that. But there's a couple of, just as far as the education
Yes.
part. I went to Wayne State University. I didn't graduate from there, but that's where I went. Not, I think you said Michigan or something like that. I forget.
Yeah.
Anyway, just want to correct that. That was
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I'm
Cool.
honored to be included in this series here, man. This is very cool.
Yeah, it's really nice. I have some people that have been contacting me because they see names I've posted. I just talked to Niels 2 days ago, and I'll be interviewing him tomorrow.
Mhm. Awesome.
And then I'm waiting to hear back from Norman Brown, actually. So
Man,
let's see how that goes.
what am I
Uh,
doing here, man?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you why in a minute. But one of the things I like to know is when you started, as your youth and your family, was there music around in the house? Were there other musicians in the house? What drew you into music as a kid?
Wow. Well, it's a little bit convoluted because my mom and dad were divorced early in my childhood, so it's kind of have two different things going. So my mom listened to a lot of the current music of the day, which urban music, R&B, blues, and so that music, dance music, anything you could dance to, was always playing, in our house. And I the thing that I remember of kind of where music kind of like, wait, what's that? Was actually the
Wait.
Jackson Five. I saw the Jackson Five on
Oh,
TV,
yeah.
and man, I was like just blown away. That's the first time I remember being just like captivated by not just the music, but their performance and everything. It was pretty amazing. But I didn't really have in terms of musicians in uh, at that point anyway. My dad was a serious jazz fan,
Okay.
and so anytime we're in the car with him, there's a jazz station in the Detroit area. It was WJZZ, and man, you couldn't turn his radio. You might as well just broken the knob because it never
Yeah.
left that station. So we were hearing the sounds from JZZ every time we're in the car. He had tons of records, and um, which I got into later, when I started to take an interest in music. But we all just like kid stuff, man. We all dabbled. My brother, my sisters, we all kind of dabbled and played in
Oh,
bands in school, in school.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but so
So,
but nothing real serious, nothing more than anybody else.
right. Yeah,
Uh,
not like where they can say, okay, you're taking piano lessons, you're doing this, you're doing that, not formal. But
yeah,
I know when I was a kid, everybody had the little clarinet that you
yeah,
would start. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
the
oh yeah,
little,
the little, yeah,
yeah, the little
yeah, yeah, yeah,
plastic
yeah,
one they'd hand
yeah,
out. Ew.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
I was a Virgo, so I didn't want to. Did anyone else touch this? But
Yeah,
so
yeah,
you had that. So but you're in school now. Did you, because you played cello, and then the
yeah. I,
tuba. Was
I
that
actually,
part of a school?
yeah, that was the school. Actually, I didn't play cello. I played a baritone horn,
Oh,
and that was at my middle school. And I think I had played, like snare drum or, like I said, it
uh,
was just kid stuff. It wasn't really,
yeah.
it was just something to do. But I played when I got into middle school, and this is maybe when it more started to form for me. I played baritone in the school band, and that was probably the most. I kind of count that as the beginning because
Yeah.
I was kind of learning to read music a little bit, and and doing that, and also made a connection with the band director there because at that time I started, but there was also they cut music out of schools,
Uh,
and so I remember that, and it was a big deal, and that's kind of when bass came into the picture.
yeah.
And I had a friend who lived down the street, a guy named Wade Gator, uh, who was playing bass. And so I didn't know what a bass was before then.
Yeah.
So he kind of turned me on to that. And I just watching him, and I kind of became fascinated with it. And uh, eventually I got a bass from him. He
Oh,
sold me his old Kimberly, it was a Kimberly bass. And
wow.
he had gotten a new Fender bass, and it was if we're going
Yeah.
back, this was like '70s, man. This was and
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
it is, it was a pretty big deal. But again, I still didn't have the bug, but it was just something I played around on that. I was still when they brought music back to the school. I was playing baritone. When I got to high school, I added clarinet to that. And that was just, not the hippest combination. Yeah. And like you say, you want to be cool and hanging and playing the music of our youth. And so I don't remember exactly how I got back. I had the bass, but I really wasn't doing it. And then some point early in high school, I picked it up again, and then I got the bug, man, and I was just obsessed with it.
And who was like a main inspiration for you, just commercially, that you started listening to, and that, because as musicians we listen to certain people, and that's how we kind of acquire our tone and our sound, our direction. What genre and then what musicians were you kind of listening to back then that influenced you?
Well, the thing that sort of, and I really wasn't, I don't know that I had focused on any particular bass player at that point, but it was the music at the time when in high school, it was like Prince, Rick James, and music that we were, of our youth that we were enjoying. And so that was really the first thing. Maybe Bootsy. Maybe Bootsy might have been, but really I was more influenced by some of the
genre.
Well, the local guys. Those are the guys I was hearing play. Like I said, my buddy Wade Gator, and then there's a guy named Paul Stewart, who is a great singer and bass player, and I listened to him a lot. I tried to copy him a lot, and there's other guys that played around town. We had a lot of good bass players in Detroit. Once I started playing, getting out, but early on it was, like I said, started with Wade Gator and then Paul Stewart, and then I just started trying to learn songs that my friends. We had a band together. We were trying to play all the music. I just started trying to learn the songs, and
so like covers and things of the time you were playing, or
original? Yeah, just learning covers. Yeah, just trying to play. Like I said, we had a couple of bands that I joined when I was in high school, which is funny because I couldn't really play. We were just but we were trying and trying to get it together. But we were playing like Cameo and Prince and Rick James.
Cameo,
and just trying to learn the songs that everybody was doing in the band. And then I eventually, as you start to get into the instrument more itself and in a studying way, I started listening to other bass players that were on records, Stanley Clarke and Louis Johnson,
Marcus Miller.
Marcus. Oh man, I didn't find Marcus until later, but when I did, it was like mind blowing. Like a whole new, a whole new world opened up when I heard that. And
so how did you transition from that time to wanting to study and then going and formally studying, like you said, higher education?
Well, I just got really obsessed with it. Like I wanted to figure it out. I wanted to learn everything I could. I was fortunate to be able to take, for short times, take lessons from a few different people, professional musicians who were playing. One was
Rodney Whitaker was one of them.
No, there was a guy. I'm not going to be able to remember his name now. Recall his name. Well, maybe it'll come to me, but on bass. But there was a piano player who is Ben Jones, and Ben Jones, the bass player. He's a really good friend of mine. His dad was a piano player, and they owned a music store.
Oh wow!
I went in there and just curious kid, just obsessed with it, right? And he started talking to me about taking lessons, and I couldn't really afford lessons or anything. And so he said, "Man, if you can get here, I will give you lessons."
Wow!
So for a while, I would take the bus. I mean, it was cross town, but Detroit's a small town. I would take the bus over there, and he would teach me from piano. And from him, it was probably one of the most helpful things because I learned how to play with another musician, how to follow him on piano. and so yeah, I would just go there and he would teach me songs, and and I just tried to follow him the best I could, and that proved to be really, really valuable. But I kept, like I said, it was like an obsession. So I just anything I could find about learning
Yeah.
bass. I never thought of it as being a career though.
Right.
Um, I was looking at the guys I was being influenced by, and they played local, but I didn't have the sort of aspiration that I would be a full-time musician or anything. I just wanted,
Yeah. Fun. Have
I just
play.
and I just really wanted to learn it. So it was no comprehensive way. I just I got a
Yeah.
bit from this guy, a little bit from this guy. I bought this
Which we all
book.
do as
Yeah,
musicians.
yeah. Bought some videos, the John
Mhm.
Patitucci videos, things like that. And then uh, when I got to when I thought about going to college, I for a short time entertained the idea of a music teaching uh, uh, path.
Oh,
So I started to take some lessons and to start focusing a little bit more on the academic thing, which I did, sort of.
theory and all the
Yeah,
reading music and yeah.
I was in all the I was in the bands and orchestra in high school, and then I went to Henry Ford, which is a junior college, community college, and
Right.
then from there I took some classes at Wayne State. I never graduated from Wayne, but went there. It was just this thirst for the
Yeah.
knowledge.
You
And
immersed yourself in it, it sounds like, as much as you could
yeah,
with the means that you had at the time and the things available to you, the toys, the tools
yeah, yeah.
available as far as people, school, and that's great. So, you're playing with doing that, and then you get out of that. How did you transition from that to being hired as a bass player, especially with Alexander, and how did that all happen?
Man, it's interesting now having had the experiences that have
Yeah,
gotten me to this point. But back then it was just fun, man. I just any opportunity to play. So we had a band, like I said, from high school. And then once we got out of high school, some of those same guys kind of morphed into different situations, just playing with people I know. And I would play with in any situation, anybody, I just wanted to
yeah,
play. And so we had a band. And I don't, my the one that I remember is my dad. Uh, he worked with a lady who was married to Levi Mann. Levi Mann was uh, he was like the cat. He ran the town in terms of entertainment. He was a big deal. He was an
yeah.
organ player, and he would have like 2 or 3 gigs going every day on Friday and Saturday on the weekend. So he was like the big guy. He'd hired all the local musicians and everything. So my dad knew his wife and got somehow talked them into auditioning me.
Wow.
And so I went to the audition and managed to survive the audition rehearsal. And I did my first gig and I blew it. I
Oh,
showed up
wow.
late. I showed up late, and that's the one
Oh,
thing that's the one thing you can't do. So
yeah.
I showed up
So
late, and
that's why you're always an hour early now to all the gigs.
you think I learned, yeah, right, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was kind of as far as like a professional. I think that might have been one of the first. But my band, my friends, high school, we did some local gigs where we got paid a little bit of money
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
But that one was like a little different because it was pro. I mean, these guys were the
Right.
seasoned musicians, and I'm like the new
Yeah.
kid trying to figure it out. And then I blow it by showing up late. And it was such a thing of growing up in Detroit, kind of just knowing people,
Right.
and you eventually just get pulled in different situations. Um, but I played in some cover like top 40 bands. We started working and playing. Back then it was like a hotel circuit. And
Right.
so you would go play at these different hotels, be like 4 nights a week, 3, 4 nights a week. And then 5 40-minute sets, you know, that kind of thing, doing just all the top 40
Yeah.
music. And then I met this guy named Dan Chris, who was a guitar player, and we started doing more on the jazzier side of things, very contemporary jazz, but you know, did a lot of George Benson, Earl Klugh, that kind of music. And so we started working in the circuit doing that, and that was really when I saw like, oh wow, maybe you can make a little bit of money doing this, you know. And that probably is what led me to Alexander Zanjic, because it was on the same circuit,
right,
with Alexander Zanjic. And so when we weren't playing, I was going out and seeing all those bands. Alexander, there was a band called Orange Lake Drive. You know, my friend Scott Wilkie played. I'm trying to remember the name of his band back then at the time. He had one of the bands that was on the circuit. And I would just go out and see him and try to meet him and hang and talk with everybody. And eventually I got a chance to audition for Alexander Zanjic. And yeah, actually the first time I auditioned, I didn't get the gig. But then I got a call later. I got a call later to play with him. And man, that was a great experience playing with him. I played with him for 7 years.
Wow.
And just a time of learning.
Yeah.
Learning what you don't know, you know?
Right. And also you're learning how to behave and all the protocols of being part of a band and going to shows and all of that.
Yeah.
You're learning the pro side of things.
Right. So I got to, I mean, and Zanjic, he was the perfect person to sort of groom a young player. And but not only that, I got to play with these other great musicians, which automatically challenges you and pushes you up a little bit. Like I said, I learned a lot about what I didn't know.
Right.
And it was a great time. We did some great things. My first time traveling to play music was with him.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was a good period.
Yeah. So then you're back there, you're doing all that. You're exposed to really a great kickoff to your career that you have now. So then you move to the West Coast. And when you get to the West Coast, I presume you went to Los Angeles first, like everyone does. And how did you know people out there? Did you have to kind of start over? How did that kind of transpire musically?
Yeah, it wasn't a very smart move.
Yeah.
But it's, you know, I'm glad I did it. And if I had maybe known what I was getting into, I probably wouldn't have done it. But there's just something about being naive that, you know, you just go for stuff. And I'm so glad I did. But what I did know, like as we were talking, it was tough for me to sort of give you a timeline of Detroit, because I just grew up there. And it's just, you kind of just know people and you meet people. And so when I came to California, what I didn't understand was about looking for work, because nobody knew me or anything. Not only did nobody know me, and if they knew me, would they care? It was so many great musicians, you know, here. I mean, it's great musicians in Detroit, but then you go to LA and it's like, oh my God, you know,
it's magnified.
Yeah. So it was a rough beginning on the West Coast. Real hit hard with reality of where I was at in my and what was really happening in the scene. But what I did is eventually I figured out, I contacted everybody that I knew from Detroit that was in California.
Smart. Yeah.
And one being my friend Randy Jacobs, who I ended up, you know, we've had a long time relationship with his band, the Bone Shakers, and other projects.
Yeah.
Many studio projects. Scott Wilkie, who, you know, obviously still work with him today. And also eventually I didn't know Kamal Kenyatta in Detroit. I knew of him, but he had already left Detroit and left a major impression there, because everybody talked about him, but I had never met him there. until I got to San Diego and met him and did a lot of work with him for many years.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it kind of started. That's how it started. I just
So
contacted people.
you basically network for those viewing the video. If you're an upcoming musician and you're trying to make a start, you want to network. It's very important, and you
It
can
is.
always start with people you know, which is, you know, obviously you want to do. Then, of course, now you're playing with great Coco Montoya, which is one of the last remaining iconic real blues guitar players, singers. I mean, he every pore of his body oozes blues. How did you find that gig? How did that happen?
You know, it's interesting. Yes, you know, to comment on that. Yeah, you got to learn how to. I didn't know how to network when I came out here, and so I really had a hard time. I didn't know. I thought, oh man, because in Detroit, everybody knew me. I was playing with Alexander Zonjic, who was like, he was like, everybody knew him in Detroit.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of came out here thinking like, oh, you know,
Yeah.
I play with Alexander Zonjic. I'm going to be doing those kind of get, and it was not like that at all.
Yeah.
And but also I didn't understand. But yeah, you got to get out. You have to meet people. You had to play some free gigs. You just want to play. You got to get to know people. People get to know you, and everything. And sort of the way I met Coco. So I was playing with the Bone Shakers, which is Randy Jacobs' band.
Big band, yeah.
We were playing for the Santa Cruz Blues Festival. They would have a jam at a place called Moe's Alley after.
Yeah, I know Moe's Alley. I grew up in Santa Cruz.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. So Bone Shakers, a lot of times we were the house band for the jam after the festival. So we played one year, which I'm thinking must have been, it had to be 2008. And Coco Montoya had played the festival, and him and his wife came to the jam, and that's where I met. That's where I met him at.
Yeah.
And I think he must have sat. I don't really remember. I think he sat in. I'm sure he did and played, and you know, not really think I'm just trying to do my thing.
Yeah.
And a couple months later, which was a surprise to me, I got a call from him saying, "Hey, it's funny how he said it. He said, I'm looking for a bass player. Do you know anybody?"
Yeah.
And I'm thinking like what?
It's that guy over there. It's
I'm like,
me.
I know some guys, but hey, what? Hey,
yeah. What am I, chopped liver? Yeah.
Hey, you know, I like to take a shot at it, you know.
You know,
so, yeah, that was kind of how that started. And
it kind of reminds me of a story when I went to a guitar center in San Jose back in the early 80s, maybe it was. And I was looking for a guitar, and then I ended up buying and playing for like 10, 15 years. But I said, who's the best salesman in this store? Because I knew I could get the best deal, because they're going to make it off the next young kid who wants to be a rock star. And, you know, and the guy goes, it's that guy over there. And I'm like, should have just told me, I was going to buy, but you know what I mean?
Right.
That remind me of that. So how did the conversation switch to you being the guy, or was it always you and he was messing with you?
You know, I don't know, because I don't know if that was just his way. Because, well, you know, the thing is, it was a genre that I really didn't know.
Yeah.
And I was sort of in that scene because of the Bone Shakers, because they're, you know, they called us blues, but it was really more of like a R&B soul band, you know.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was very different. And he must have picked up on that, you know. I don't really know what his gig is. I don't know. We never actually talked about that. But that was how he sort of voiced it. And I just told him, yeah, hey, I'd like to
try it.
I'd like to take a shot at it, you know.
Yeah.
And I really didn't know his music at the time. And you know, he's been around. So he said, well, check it out. He said, I'm going to send you some music. You check it out first. And I'm like, I don't need to check it out. I want the gig, you know, like.
But you had to play cool though.
Right, you play cool. So he sent me.
I'll check it out. After
sure,
lunch.
I'll check it out and I'll think about it. No, my mind was already made up. So so he ended up sending me the music.
He already bought a plane ticket.
Right, 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 right. I already quit my other gigs, right?
Yeah.
And
You had
so
your
yeah.
bags packed at the front door before the conversation was over.
That's right. That's
You
right.
were
Yeah.
throwing clothes out of the drawer.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, let's go, let's go. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, he, and then he sent me the music and yeah, we took off. And it was was funny too, because how it started, um, sort of, I'm not a jazz. I mean, jazz. I've had a lot of exposure to jazz, and my idea of blues was uh, inadequate, to just say the least. I just
Sure.
thought blues. Oh yeah, I got that.
Uh-huh.
145 or whatever. Even the jazz blues change, I could play that, no problem, right? What I didn't understand was, being like an artist and having, a thing. I had some learning to do, in other words.
Sure.
But yeah, so I learned all the,
Songs.
prepared for the thing. And actually, he asked me. He said, "Well, do you know a drummer?" Because he needed a drummer too at the same time.
Oh.
And so I recommended my buddy from here, Larry Grano. And so we show up in LA to rehearse, but they were having a fires that year, and Coco, I believe they had to evacuate, or they might have had, so he had to cancel rehearsal.
Oh, wow.
So we went up there. We had one day of rehearsal, and then because of the fire, he had to cancel the rest, and we just went on the road for a month.
Wow.
So we basically were learning on the
On
road.
the road.
Yeah, yeah, and
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 then so when you're in that kind of a situation, there's the music part of it, but there's also the business part. And again, for those that don't know about touring and getting paid and all that kind of stuff, did you discuss what you were going to be paid, or and do they and even to this day, do they tell you what you're going to be paid, or do you have a rate? Were you charging a rate at that time, and maybe you weren't, but you do now? How does that all work?
yeah, no, at the time I didn't, I mean, I kind of know what I needed to, but Coco was exceeding that. So there
Yeah.
wasn't an issue, but it wasn't like I went to him with a rate. No, he basically laid it out. Here's the gig. Here's kind of what we do. We
Provide
travel.
lodging, we pay
This is,
you
yeah.
meals.
And he laid it all out for me. And,
Nice.
and
And
he,
you had previously did some touring with the flute player and stuff like that, and all this stuff. So you were already kind of aware of how to do all that
a
by
little
that
bit. Yeah. I
point.
had done a lot of road work at that time, with Scott Wilkie
Yeah,
and with the Bone Shakers.
yeah,
Spent a lot of time on the road with the Bone Shakers. Um, and yeah, so that was kind of where my experience,
yeah.
that was the experience I had at the time.
And you're
And
still with, and just so viewers don't know, you're still with Coco today.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
So how many years have you been playing with them, if you think about it in numbers?
I want to say, is it 17 now?
Yeah,
I started 2008.
yeah. That's
So I think it was October 2008. So about, I don't know, 17 years.
17 years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's that's a long commitment, and obviously it worked out, and it all came from you in that moment saying, "Hey, I'd like to try it out." And again, for people that are viewing, I believe as musicians, when I'm practicing and I'm doing what I'm doing, I'm practicing to keep my fingers motivated and work on things and come up with ideas, but I'm also always want to be prepared for that situation that might come up where
Yeah,
you end up getting that call, because not everybody gets the call, but when you do, you want to be ready.
I'll be ready for it.
It sounds like you were ready mentally and all the other ways, maybe not knowledge wise about blues, but you didn't let that stop you.
Mhm.
You went forward with it. And that's just taking a risk. And it sounds like from the conversation, you always took a risk.
It's ignorance, man.
Yeah, but it isn't really, but
You
it
don't
is, it's
know.
following your heart.
You don't, yeah, and you don't know what you don't know. It's like
Right. Yeah.
I didn't know that I didn't know
Yeah.
blues. I'm just like, hey, it's music,
Right.
and I could do it. And thankfully, Coco was patient,
Yeah.
and
And he's iconic too, because you're getting the real blues. Like for me, I've tried to play blues before, and I say try because you have to have a certain, it's a totally different way of playing the guitar and the kind of guitar. And it's, the thing is different for maybe bass too. I don't know. But when you play the piano, everything's laid out for you. All the notes are there, nothing changes, there's no bends, there's no anything. With guitar, and maybe with bass, this is true too. Uh, it's all how you approach it. There's so many variations. That's why every guitar player sounds so different. And it's a very difficult instrument to play because not everything's laid out for you, simply. And there have been points in my life I said, God, I should have just played piano. It would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because guitar has always been a challenge, and I'm sure it is with bass. But so now you're playing with Coco and you have that going. And then how do you transition from that to being your home base in San Diego?
Well, I was already in San Diego when I moved to California. Um, it was kind of weird. I was married, my first wife, and the way we came out, she had a job. She got a job working on Camp Pendleton.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't know anything about San Diego. I'd never been to San Diego, and I just thought like, oh, that's closer to LA, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea how you know that 77 miles can take
Yeah.
hours. So many
Yeah.
hours. Anyway, yeah. So I was already in San Diego, but I was at first my target was LA. And
Yeah.
so even though I was living here, I was driving to LA
Sure.
4 or 5
Makes
times a week.
sense.
I was doing for years. I never met any musicians here. I was just going to LA trying to infiltrate that scene there. And but eventually, I started meeting people around here too, um, and started just and I've always been open. The only kind of restriction I had at first when I first came out was I had done all of these like cover bands.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. I wanted to play with artists.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the goal I had. But I still was very open to, uh, playing with anybody and everybody.
Sure.
And I met some wonderful, wonderful, life-changing people. I met Samisi Mao, who had a band called Samisi and Fulabua, still has a band called Samisi and Fulabua. And man, I just can't even put into words what that has meant. Uh, just knowing him and his family and the music, all the musicians I met in that situation.
Wow.
But it's just being open
Yeah.
to try and, different things. Like, yeah, I came from this sort of R&B thing that was definitely my roots. But
And it was a small community too. Everyone knew each other, and then you threw yourself into a
yeah,
world that
this big old
wasn't
world.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then like you said, you've transitioned. Now you're kind of settled into Southern California. You do play a lot in San Diego. I'll tell viewers you do. And I ended up meeting you in 2020 during the pandemic, where you were kind of not on the road and slowed. Your career was kind of in a pause,
It's
like a lot of musicians.
yeah,
Yeah. And you were doing a regular kind of job that you weren't happy at. I remember that. And we met at a local drummer, Jack Nathan's garage, and we started playing. And I remember that. And I often tell people the pandemic was actually a blessing for me because I had a trio. You couldn't have gatherings. The smooth, and I was transitioning into smooth jazz at the time because I wanted to get gigs at events and weddings. And I had met you for that reason. And then because it was quiet at the time, I was able to make some noise for myself and get myself into that genre and into that world with less resistance than if it was super busy and already tied up. And
right.
because smooth jazz, contemporary jazz, a lot of those players have been doing it for 30 or 40 years. They're all well established. Paul, Brown and Norman Brown and all the players that we know. Neil's and all that. So for me, it was kind of fortunate to meet you because um, you brought a lot of everything we've been talking about. You were actually more familiar with that genre and that world than I was. It was new for me. Now I know it. No,
Yeah.
but
Oh, you do. Yeah, yeah.
but I think you know you're drawn to musicians, like you said, it's a big world, but I think you get drawn to the musicians. It's to me everything is about frequency and vibration in life.
Mm.
And when you open yourself up like you do, and you're following your heart like you do with music and other things, aspects of your life, I think you run into the right people
Yeah.
that will add those inspirations, because I was always inspired by your playing, you know, your phrasing, how you approach music. You take the when you show up, one of the things I like, and I'll tell viewers, people that want to be working musician, and you do this with everyone you play with, you show up and you provide the best you can with what you have. And it's, for me, it's always been more than I would have even thought of. I don't, same with Chase. I get that same from him. I'm very fortunate to play, and Trace, I'm fortunate to be able to play with you guys. To me, that's like what you just described about the musician you just mentioned, knowing his family and how it had an impact. That's how you guys have impacted me as a musician.
Yeah, and it was the same experience for me. You know, you've attracted, like, and it's because of the person you are. You've attracted this really great these musicians, not just musicians, but people.
Yeah.
And that says a lot, you know, to have, you know, like Trace and Chase, and that we're all feeling it, man. We're vibing with you, and
Yeah.
it's a big thing. One of the things about the pandemic too that I thought was it worked out cool for us, because when things started to open up, we were ready,
Yeah.
because we had started,
Uh-huh.
practicing together, so we were ready to take advantage.
Yes.
Whereas a lot of the musicians who we were sheltered in
Yeah.
and a little nervous about going out,
Right.
but I felt like when things opened, we were ready, and we were
Well,
saying,
the thing about having the trio, and I was going to say earlier, was that most of everything was outside at the time, and we
right,
were a
right,
small jazz trio, so we could go and set up anywhere. And I was turning down work
mm-hmm.
at that point. We were just playing a lot, and
Yeah,
more than I am now, actually. And yeah, you're right. We were ready, and it was perfect for the that time.
perfect for
And
that time. Yeah,
and then when things got revved back up again, where the wheels were up to a humming in the music world again, and you too were touring and a lot like that, I had already been able to kind of establish myself, and I was able to acquire another bassist, Lance Jefferson, who's a great bassist.
yeah,
Um, so that I had already established myself in the smooth jazz world in a sense through smoothjazz.com. Sandy Shore developed a relationship with her, and then other people. It transpired to where when you were not available all the time because you do tour a lot, I was already able to keep running things when you weren't around. Always
mm-hmm.
looking forward to you coming back in town, because again, when you play with certain musicians, there's just that magic and you look forward to it, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah,
I remember when we did Groove and Smooth, and Dean Brown, who's passed away almost 2 years ago next month,
yeah.
he even said when we came back into the studio to record a song we were going to add to the album, he was so excited when he hung up the phone. He told his wife, he goes, "All right, the band's back. Hey, we're going to do another," because we had so much fun and the energy was so good. For him, it was like getting back together. Like he felt he was, even though he wasn't really part of the nucleus of the band, he became part of the band in a way,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he, you know, and he
It
did
felt it
all the
felt like he
guitar
was
work
part of
on
it.
it,
Yeah.
and which opened a lot of doors for me, and eventually meeting Gary Husband and Hadrian and Eric Marienthal, and of course now I'm doing interviews with all the top musicians. Again, like you said, for those watching, just be open to the journey, and let things happen, and enjoy yourself and have the fun and joy of it. Now, you do tour a lot, as I mentioned. How does that, being in married or being in a relationship, how hard is that on your significant other being gone for long periods of time? For musicians that are thinking of doing that, how do you handle that, both of you? And does it always work out okay? Sometimes not.
Yeah, it's rough. It's different for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, I was doing this, before I met my wife, or before we started dating anyway. Um, and we dated for a long time while I'm, doing a lot of traveling. And I don't really have any answer other than I just found the right person.
Yes.
Because
Gary Husband and I talked about this, and he just says if you find that person
yeah,
that you can be away from, um, and it's okay, like my significant other now as well, and we're apart, 4 or 5 months at a time, and we'll see each other. But yeah, if you can find that person and still feel connected when you're away, but
and yeah, because everybody's different, and some people,
yeah,
even I've met musicians that have come out on the road, and then they stop touring because they can't
can't
handle
be
that
away from their
lifestyle. That,
families.
that lifestyle doesn't fit with them, and so
Yeah,
it's an individual thing.
yeah.
And like I said, we dated for a long time, and so it was
She
working.
knew
Yeah,
before.
it was actually maybe an adjustment when the pandemic hit, and all of a sudden I'm not touring and we're home
Yeah.
all the time
Yeah.
together.
Oh,
You
you're
gotta,
home again.
yeah,
Oh,
right.
yeah. Yeah,
You
yeah.
have
I've
to
heard
adjust.
that from people
Right,
actually.
right. You have to adjust. You have
Oh,
to
now I
adjust.
have to really get to know you.
Right. And then you get used to being home, being
Yeah,
around each other all the time, and then it's an adjustment if when that it's.
yeah.
But yeah, we have a good. It
It works.
it works for us. Yeah, it
Great.
works. We have a
Now,
good relationship.
now, if you had to choose one, would it be live performance, or studio work for you, or do you like both?
You know, I'll be honest. I would say maybe studio, or I have friends who are always trying to encourage me to step out, and I'm not. I'm a little more reserved. I
Uh-huh.
think I would be just as happy playing in the pit at a theater.
Uh-huh.
I don't feel like I need to be,
Right.
but I do love the feedback when you
Uh-huh.
get. It's not like when you're playing live
I call it the pat on the back.
and you feel
Yeah.
people are, or when you're even sometimes when I'm playing like dance gigs and
Uh-huh.
I'll look out and I'm like the dance floor is full and I go, wow,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're
Well,
we're giving them that that
yeah.
opportunity, and I guess it's when you see how it affects people is rewarding. But I like uh, it's nice
If you
being in
had
the
to choose
studio.
one,
If I had to shoot, I think live. I
yeah.
think
Yeah.
live, yeah.
And most of the musicians I talk to do, and I was talking to Brendan Rothwell a few days ago, and we were talking about that, and he was telling me that this forum is too public for him to say, but to your point, music does affect people, and he's had people from other countries, Australia, Japan, around the world, contact him and say, "Your music, your song, helped me through a time," or whatever. And when people go and see a performance, if you're up there and you're all joyful together and there's a magic happening, you're able for that hour, 2 hours, 3 hours to take people away from whatever their plight is in life, if it's a little heavy, and just give them some levity and joy, and that's a healing. I call that a healing. We're healers. Musicians are
Mhm.
artists. We're not just taking an intangible thing, which is something that is in another frequency or vibration that you can't see, which is notes, and
Mhm.
it's in your mind, comes into your mind, then you have to translate it from your mind through your body to an instrument, and you have to meld with your instrument in a way where it's a language that just comes out of you,
Yeah.
and not everyone can do that. And you know I think that's what all musicians strive for. And to the point of being more reserved, I think we all want to, I think all musicians want uh, to be in front of other people and to be acknowledged in some way. We use our music as a voice too, actually. For me, it was about getting approval because of my chaotic childhood and fears of abandonment and a lot of things I went through as traumatic experiences as a child. And I think we all have those. For me, it was about getting approval from people like, oh, you're doing something well. And I'm doing something that I created myself, and I'm getting praise for it. That maybe it's not that way now, but that's the way it started for me.
Right.
And I think we all find what it is that motivates us. And it doesn't matter what it is because you get into it. And then that thing that you get from it heals all the trauma that you've had in life. I often say music saved me as a person.
Yeah.
You know, because to me, it's the closest thing to God. You have silence, you have music, and then you have the word. And to me, silence is God. That's the source of everything. So what do you think some of your favorite accomplishments as a musician that you feel good about yourself?
Oh, wow. You know, yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky, man. I've been on stage and in studio with some making some great music. There's some not so great too, but it's been great, man. I just feel really
Hey,
blessed.
what do you mean?
Yeah, I feel really blessed that I've just been able to have these experiences, and to travel has been a cool perk. That's something that I didn't
You
know.
went to Brazil recently.
Went to Brazil this year. We
You've
went to
done
France.
cruises,
We did
blues
France.
cruises.
We did Brazil, and we were. Oh man, I mean the travel thing has been amazing. I didn't know I would like to travel,
Yeah.
and then traveling as a musician
Yeah.
is a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's
So that,
day to day.
yeah.
Like I'm looking for the next experience that what's happening next. But I have some things to be proud of for sure. A lot of and that's where when you talk about would I pick live or studio. So when we go in the studio, we have something we can look back at. When we do the live thing, it's that moment, and then it's gone. It's great, but it's gone. But we in the studio, we have something we can go back and reference and listen to those recordings and go, wow, man, that was that was cool. And so I have a lot of that. I've got a few. We've racked up a few now.
Yeah.
Go back and listen to, and I'm very proud of most of stuff done in the studio. So, but yeah, just I'm just thankful, man.
And then being on the road and the thing about music, unlike other careers, is that and Dean was an example of this. You can teach at some point if you wanted to, if you want to decide to finally get off the road or maybe just do home recordings and collaborate remotely, which a lot of people do. I'm actually, through some of my conversations, I want to be doing something with Reza Khan next year, and Brendan Rothwell wants to do something with me. So it's all remote. I mean, he lives in Calgary. Reza lives in New York. But so what? Because technology, you can do that. But the good thing about with you is because your knowledge, you could teach if you wanted to slow down your career a bit, which is great.
I do teach now. I do,
and you do, and which we'll talk about towards the end. But so how do you think music has changed from over the years, maybe in the last 20 years? What major changes do you see that have become maybe obstacles that you had to overcome, or that you think what major changes have you observed over the last maybe 20 years? Besides the streaming and the
as far as like the industry, that's changed quite a bit. Obviously when we started in this, we had vinyl. We didn't have Spotify and Apple Music and all of that, or YouTube or any of that stuff. So when going from when you talk about that part of it, going from vinyl to CDs, and then we had all the piracy and everything that was going on when it became digital. uh, uh, yeah, when it made that switch to digital, that was a big,
Yeah.
kind of disrupted everything. You
Mm.
And then now from that to where we are now with streaming, and so we've been through all of those changes. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Nothing stays the same. It keeps moving forward. Now we have AI stuff that's
Right.
into play, which I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think about it, it seems scary, but other
Yeah.
times it's just the course that
Music.
they face, and it's still, hopefully still it's going to be about individuals, uh,
Right.
you know, um, creating and
The organic side of music,
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
human side. Yeah.
right. It feels like it's getting away, but maybe that's just the natural course of things, and so yeah,
Yeah.
I'm old, man. I've seen some
Yeah.
seen some
Well,
things.
I kind of through my conversations, some even Brendan was saying, and so to Reza, a lot of these things are tools. They're just new tools, just like when there used to be the Fender Rhodes, and then came the synthesizer. Everyone was like, that was all new, and now it's old hat. And everything can be used as a tool. And streaming, yes, we don't make the money we used to. There's the bass player for Kiss who's out there in front of Congress saying to the head of the company, "You make $44 billion last year. Just give us $1 billion. We'll be happy with that as musicians." Um, and I tell people, back 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago, there was maybe 9 songs a month released. Now there's 60,000 songs a day. And there's over 60 million songs a year that don't even get one stream on Spotify.
Mhm.
So if you're even able to get your music out there, if you're able to even be on a chart or anything, that's huge now. Whereas before, it wasn't that huge, but because there's such an onslaught of saturation of music, it's harder to be heard and it's harder to be seen. Now, one of the things about a lot of the musicians I'm talking to, including yourself, is you've already established yourself as a working musician. And so it's not going to be an issue for you, but new musicians that are sitting in their room doing the same riff 10 times a day, 10 times over, so they get that perfect riff that they can put on and hope it goes viral so they make some money. A lot of these younger musicians, they don't need to leave their house. They're already making 10 grand a month on YouTube posting music. So why would they go and lug their amp to a club, play for $150 for 3 hours, have to drive back home late at night, store their stuff away, and do all that when it's so much easier just to sit and do the riffs they're doing and make the money? My purpose with these videos is to say, because through conversations like we're having, because there's all this other aspect of music that you can enjoy other than just the money. And
Yeah.
also, using just technology to create your music. I'm receiving my first home studio in a couple days. It's called Lava Studio. It's brand new, just came out. It was actually funded by GoFundMe page to produce these things, and it's like a giant iPhone. You turn the screen up 85 degrees. It's a small box, and
Mhm.
you have everything from lessons to backtracking. You can put your stems. You can actually take songs, commercial songs, and put them on, and the AI will break it into stems for you, so you can add your guitar to it. It's got over 300 amps on there, effects, everything, and it's the latest technology. And the reason I got it is because I want to start doing remote and creating my own music too, in addition to the live stuff. So technology is there to use,
Yeah.
AI is there to use. We don't have to be afraid of it, but
Mhm.
we'll never be replaced. But there may be a time 50 years from now when musicians are saying, wow, look, I found a video where a human's actually playing the music.
That's right.
you know,
Right, right,
it's going to
right.
get to that point at some point. But now you have 3 songs out that I mentioned, and I recommend people go listen to them. What inspired you to write those, and what do you hope to evoke feeling wise or emotion wise from the listener when they hear your music?
Yeah, man, I've always dabbled in, which I think we all do, in just creating, writing, and so for a time, it would seem like I would get the bug to say, okay, I want to sit down and do a project of my own, and I would start, creating and gathering songs together. And it's happened a couple of times, and then somebody would say, "Hey, do you have any songs?" And I
Hmm.
would go, "Oh, yeah, I got this," and then somebody else would record one of those songs, and then so I've been, long story short, I've been writing for a while, but
Yeah,
not as not consistently.
right.
Just go through times where I have an idea and I'll try to suss it out. And so, yeah, a couple years back, I now that's a good, and it's a great transition, because thinking about like streaming, like going back to the era of albums or even CDs, I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Hmm.
It would have cost me a lot more. I would have had to produce a full album at that
Yeah,
time. So me being able to, like, a song at a time, put music out there, that was something that I couldn't have done
right.
before. And then I also know, I know friends, people who did make albums or CDs, and nobody heard them. They didn't sell any.
Yeah,
So kind of with the streaming, this is like a little win. I mean, at least somebody's getting to hear it,
yeah.
you know,
So
and
like the
it warms
album,
it warms my heart when I get my little Apple Music thing and it says, oh, it shows you how many of the week,
yeah,
and I'm like, okay,
yeah.
man, somebody's listening to it. It feels like it's worth being out there doing it. And but yeah, those were just songs. They're each a little different. They're
Like Oxygen. I
uh,
love that song. What inspired that song? It's got such a inspirational feel to it. And
Man, I don't even remember. I wrote it so long ago. My friend Jeff McCullough, who produced that song, uh, I sent him that song along with a bunch of other ideas, and that's the one he picked
yeah, I can see why.
for us to work on. When I first started with him, we were going to do two songs, and so I sent him maybe, I don't know, 15 or 20, and he
Mhm.
picked Oxygen and This Place Hotel. Actually, he named it Oxygen. It wasn't called Oxygen.
Oh,
And so he picked those two, and that's what we went with. And uh, it was great, man. I love Jeff. I love working with him. And then I used to be roommates with a guy named Richard Sellers, who is a great drummer and engineer. And so as we were roommates, we were always creating and doing stuff. We never did anything with it. But recently we've been kind of going through the archives and we found a couple of things. It's like, I'm gonna put this out. So that's where Tacos and Tea came from.
mhm.
It was something that was in our, and I have a couple more
Yeah,
that we've kind of pulled up and remixed, and I may release those as well. But I just felt like it was time to have that as part of my
yeah,
portfolio, if you will.
yeah,
Um, I love being a bass player, sideman. I love playing for, your band,
yeah.
not
Sure.
necessarily to have the Nathan Brown band.
Right.
Uh, I love that role, being in that role, and that's where I feel more comfortable. But, I have some
Yeah,
stuff to say too.
sure.
Uh,
Now, and keep in mind too, I've started a new label, JMJ Records. I'm actually talking to a really great guitar player in France, actually, and it ended up he knows my mutual love in France. But I have a couple people I'm already going to be starting on the label. And the thing about me starting the label is really because the record industry has changed so much uh, in the fact that they're getting more away. They're knocking about $400 million out of their budgets overall from all this very few studios that are left, record companies, major ones, and they're getting rid of a lot of thousands of employees because their direction is going more towards catalog acquisition, as we've been hearing in the past, because there's more money in it, and partnering with licensing, syncing movies, and all that, so they can make money in that way. So they really kind of created small teams to do. They're more on the not as much hands-on for acquisitions of talent, physical talent. So to me, that's a huge opportunity for people that want to start a small label, because a lot of musicians like yourself, they're busy, they're touring, maybe they don't have that marketing skill in them. They want to get their music out there. So, and I know how to do it because I came from obscurity 5 years ago to playing some with some of the top musicians in the world and winning an award, as you can see behind me, all that kind of stuff, because I know how to do it. So, keep me in mind for upcoming projects that you want to do. If you, again, I can get your music out there. I can get it heard where it's on the charts, all that kind of stuff. But the other thing is, once you have all your songs together, you're doing what's actually called the waterfall method, which you may have heard of, where you just put all your singles out one by one. You acquire numbers individually on those singles. You do it every 6 weeks. After you have maybe 8 to 12 songs, then you put them all on an album and you issue out the album. Then all those numbers you acquired over all those singles actually apply to the album when it comes out. So now you have huge numbers already for the album before it's even being released. And the industry sees that, and you get in the algorithm, so you get noticed more. You're actually pop up on through the algorithms. You pop up on the streaming platforms more because it gives you that boost. So there's a lot of strategies to this whole new technology, but again, keep JMJ Records in mind if you decide you want it.
Oh man, I'm gonna want to sit down with you, man, and talk some stuff. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm actually going to maybe be doing a release for Reza because he has an album that's not really smooth jazz, and he asked me if he should try to do it that way, and I said no. Stick to the genre. You use put the music you have that fits in that genre out, but there's other ways to get your music out there, and I have the connections for that. And also too, now. What's the best piece of advice that kind of always stuck with you throughout your life, or maybe even got more recently? That's a piece of advice another musician has given you that's resonated with you that you'd want to share with us? Like, for instance, I have a guitarist I interviewed, and he said someone told him after a gig, "Hey, you don't have to play so much.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You don't always have to play." But he took it as an insult then, but now he realizes, their space is as important as the notes.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, like in coming up in Detroit, the more experienced musicians would help you. Instead of just like talking about you and not how calling you again, they would give you feedback that was intended to help you. I mean, how you take it is a whole different thing.
Right.
I mean, I just, if you love it and you just keep pursuing it, it's a curiosity, man. Be curious.
Yeah. And take risks.
And take risks. Keep your ears open. Always listening and just always be curious and check.
So there wasn't a musician as you were going through that might have said something to you that stuck with you that you just said it kind of.
There's been it's hard to focus on one. There's been a lot of like sort of
just one that pops to mind.
Well, one was just like when I was talking about when I started with Coco, and I remember a particular song where I thought I heard the progression was 1-4-5, and I just kind of went like, "Oh, I got it." And then 30 seconds into it, he stops the band and goes, "No, man, there's a bass line there." So you got to respect the song, respect where you're at, and it's like, yeah, I could play a 1-4-5 blues, but that wasn't the song,
right?
So, and it's little things like that along the way.
Well, that's to your point on the last two singles we did, especially "Frequency of Love" and then this last one. When we did the mix, I had to redo it because your bass playing, you don't just you're not a timekeeper with it. You actually create a story, almost a different underlying melody that supports the main melody
Mhm.
and the transitions. And I couldn't hear it enough for my ears, so I said, we got to we have to make it so it comes out more.
Mhm.
And I think that's what you're saying. You play to the song more.
You got to play to the song, and you got to listen.
Yeah,
Listen, it can't just be about what I'm playing, you
yeah,
know. So yeah, I think just keeping your ears,
yeah.
listening to what's going on, and
And what's the gear you're using now? Just for players that are out there, what
yeah,
amps do you use? And also too, a little bit about your practice routine. I know when musicians are home, they might play 2, 3 hours a day, but when they're on the road, they have a sound check, they're traveling, then they play at night. So they don't really need to practice as much because they're doing sound check playing, they're doing the gig for 3 hours. What's your schedule like when you're on and off the road?
yeah. It's kind of like pretty much what you decide, except on the road. I just because of the sort of downtime, and I've gotten in the habit of after the gig when I'm traveling, you go to a hotel. I like to have a glass of wine, and I
Uh-huh.
practice for an hour.
Nice.
Or however long. If you
Yeah.
sometimes it's longer, sometimes maybe a little less, but that's been a habit of mine. And whereas when I'm in town and I'm busy, I don't a lot of times I don't even get that practice time. It's just
Yeah.
I'm just learning the songs for the next gig or
Right.
that, but not really practicing. But yeah, if
And do
yeah,
you practice scales or do you work on ideas or do you play towards the next gig that you're having when you're practicing?
yeah. So when talking about sort of distinguishing, like there's times when I'm practicing and I'm working on music for a particular show that I have coming up.
Project. Yeah.
And the thing is being when I'm on the road, there's no music to learn. I already know all the music. So
Right.
now I can focus on other stuff, techniques, like you say, skills or so
Yeah.
whatever it is. But a lot of times when I'm at home, because I'm playing with different people, I'm having so many different sets of music to learn, and so I don't
Right.
always have the time to delve into the other stuff. But right now, I'm sort of on this thing of I'm in the mode of ear training, and
Oh,
so
nice.
I'm doing some transcribing, trying to develop my ears a little bit more. That's kind of where I'm at
Wow.
with that. And then as far as equipment, yeah, man, I've been a long time playing my Kiesel, my main girl right here,
There she is.
JB5, and that's my
And
main.
that's an active pickup, correct?
Yeah. Yes, it's Kiesel's version of a jazz bass, and you
Yeah.
can get them customized different ways. But yeah, it's an active jazz bass, 5 string.
And what kind of strings do you use or do you prefer?
I I use DR strings is what I use most of the time. Um, I've been trying some other stuff too, but I've been using DR for a long time, and I really like them.
Yeah.
And my amp, Epiphany, right behind me too.
Uh-huh.
Uh, I've been playing those for a couple years, and I really like the transparency of it. It sounds
Yeah.
like my bass, and not it doesn't color.
Uh-huh.
It just amplifies.
Right, right.
Most of the time, if you look at my amp, uh, the EQ doesn't change. It's
Yeah,
just, and I just kind of use it to boost the bass
right.
because I'm really used to my bass, and I like the way my bass sounds. So
Now, when you're home, I'm sure you use your bass amp a lot. Now, when you're on the road, do you take it with you,
I do.
or do you just plug direct into the board? Or
Well, I do that as well. But no, when I tour with Coco, I actually take this amp and I have a 410
uh,
cabinet. That's what I've been using with Coco Montoya for the last couple years. And yeah, no, I love it. It's
yeah,
great and it's powerful, man. This amp is 1,000 watts.
yeah, nice.
Because with Coco Montoya, we it's a loud stage
Yeah,
volume.
you have organ and drums and yeah,
Yeah, and this handles it well, and it's very very clean, and that's pretty much it. I got a couple of I
yeah,
been on the gig. I might use some effects sometimes, mostly on the dance gigs. I think
yeah,
not too much, but
right.
got a couple of little.
And
Excellent.
if you could play with any musician, alive or dead, that you wish you could play with in life, is there anyone that pops out at you that, like, I know I just talked to, I think was it Reza? I think you said Sonny Rollins would
Hmm.
be somebody you'd want to play with, or Miles, or is there anybody that you wish you could have played with?
Wow. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely like, people that I admire. This might sound weird. I'm a big Bob James fan,
Uh-huh.
and I've actually gotten to play with him a couple times.
Yeah,
Uh,
he's amazing.
uh,
He's an incredible musician. Yeah.
yeah,
In
yeah.
fact, Reza just did a album with him, Mystical, that came out
Uh-huh.
2024, and then and Rothwell was on there. But uh, yeah, he can play any kind of music. That guy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of people like that. That um, uh,
So Bob, if you're listening or watching this,
Bob,
he's available.
your
Yeah,
brother Chaz. Yeah,
yeah.
I actually was very fortunate when I was playing with Alexander Zonjic, and he worked a lot. They're friends, and I got to play with him. He sat in with
Yeah,
Zonjic's band a few times,
right.
a few occasions, and so that was really cool.
If I end up doing something with Reza and Bob James is involved, I'll suggest to Reza that we check that he check out your bass playing. So that
Oh
might
yeah,
happen. That might happen. So
oh yeah, yeah,
that might have been the right choice.
yeah.
Now, if you could have if you weren't doing what you're doing now, and it can be imaginary or real, what profession would you want to do? Like I asked
Outside of music.
Gary Husband said he wanted to be a Formula One driver if he wasn't being a musician.
Oh man. I
A
had
chef, mailman.
well, you're asking me that now at this
Uh-huh.
age versus like when I was
Yeah,
young, I didn't have big aspirations. I wanted to be a bus driver.
yeah.
That was it. I liked the big steering wheel. I was like, that's all I wanted.
You want to be in Speed 3 with Keanu Reeves, but you want to be driving the bus. Yeah, yeah. When it was a dime to
Right,
get
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah.
when Cokes were a dime in the machine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So bus driver. All right.
Yeah, that was back then. Now I don't know. At this point, I don't know what it would be. I want to be a barista.
Oh, there you go. You want to own your own coffee shop,
Yeah,
barista?
yeah,
Yeah, maybe
yeah,
you will someday. You never know.
yeah.
So before we go, is there anything, projects coming up, recordings, albums, tours, um, and that are coming up you want to let people know about, and also let people know where they can follow you if they want to as well.
Well, yeah. Yeah, let's start with that. So on the socials, I'm Nathan Brown Bass on Instagram, Facebook, I think
Twitter.
TikTok too. I think it's all Nathan Brown Bass if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. Twitter X, whatever. Yeah. And as far as upcoming stuff, actually, you can talk about that better than I can because the only thing that I have right now to talk about is your upcoming single,
Yeah.
or the one that's out now and the one that's coming up.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and
we have Frequency of Love that came out September 26th, which is doing well. It's number 2 on the jazz charts right now. And then also we have West Coast Smooth, Wes Montgomery Smooth, which is coming out January 30th. And that'll be on my new label, JMJ Records. There'll be physical CDs available, which there's if you decide to do CDs, I go through a company called Spiny Media. They're out of up in the Oregon area, and they distribute through this single will be coming out through Target, Walmart, all the major stores and outlets. So that'll be a nice one. This is the first song actually, since you brought it up. It's always been James Morgan, the song, and then me on the cover or whatever. This is the first time that I actually have the whole band on the cover because, to be honest with you, the songs wouldn't be the way they are, and I wouldn't be having the success I'm having, and actually we're having, if it wasn't for the guys that are participating, you, Chase, and Trace, to make it happen. So my whole idea was most of my singles have been coming out, and they'll be part of an album down the road. All these singles will come out in the Waterfall Method. Is to acknowledge that it's a band, the James Morgan Jazz Band, and to as the new brand. But again, it's about letting and I'm doing a 6-month campaign with smoothjazz.com on this one. So there'll be banners. It's the top promotion you can do with them, and it's to promote the band. And eventually, I'm in talks with Sandy Shore about possibly doing getting some gigs through an agency that handles a lot of the top smooth jazz acts. And I want it to be as the band. It's not just James Morgan. It's the sound, and now it's Pete Ferenz who's part of the production. I mean, he's playing guitar on the songs and doing other instruments and ear candy. So.
Nice stuff.
It's really it's a project now of bigger than me. It's not just me. I just come up with the initial idea. I don't, as people may not know, and you do know, I don't come in there and say, I want you to do this, I want you to do that. You're all accomplished musicians. You have your own story, your own sound. And you as a side musician, you're having to kind of model yourself to what they want in the charts and how they want things. But for my music, I don't want that. Basically, first of all, I can't write charts because I don't read it. I'm self-taught, but
you do all right, man. You do all right.
Yeah. So as long as players come in, and I just want them to tell their story, and I try to create music where there's room to do that. It's not just about the guitar being flashy and playing a million notes and all that. For me, it's really about the space between the notes and creating a song where they can hear the bass and the guitar and the amp and the drums and everything all at the same time.
Yeah,
and
it's amazing, man, that comes together. Yeah, I mean, which is a testament to you choosing the right people, because that could go really bad.
Yeah.
And when I think about how when we all get in the room and with Trace and Chase and all, and we kind of play around, and we listen to each other, and we work together on it, and it comes out really good, you know.
Yeah, and the way Chase was talking to you, he's going to the C note there. Why don't you try hitting it, holding the G, and I'll hit the boom, a boom, and it really that
very collaborative and not like, you know. Yeah, it's really cool experience. Yeah,
and that's what I wanted. That's why, again, it's being released as the band, because it is collaborative. It's not when we did Groove and Smooth. Yeah, it was Ghost Jazz Trio brand that I had, but it was because he had everything written out. He wanted a certain way, and that's great.
Yeah.
But with this new brand I have, I'm playing with a group of musicians. We sound like a band, and I want it to continue that. And we'll do more singles once. Yeah,
I'm honored to be a part of it, man.
Well, it's great having you. And and that's great. So you have anything other than that coming up? Are you touring with Coco next year, or
next year? Yeah. So right now it's just I have some, I do recording at home. The bass parts for people here at my home studio, and then I'm teaching a little bit, and I'm playing local gigs, and then in February I'll hit the road with Coco a little bit again.
Is that on the East Coast?
I'm not even no, I think
north.
The first part is like California dates. I think it's Northern California, maybe.
Yeah. And then if they want to take lessons from you, how do they contact you? DM you and
just hit me up on Instagram or any of those. I'm on Instagram mostly, but yeah, any of those, just send me a message. And
you do in-person lessons and Zoom?
I do Zoom. I do in person, either here or I go out to people. I do both. So if they're in the area,
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, yeah, I'm doing that. That's been kind of something that had been sort of missing a little bit in my things that
Repertoire.
I do. And when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden everybody wanted to take. So I was doing a lot of like virtual lessons,
Yeah,
and it's kind of kept going since then,
yeah.
which has been kind of cool. I'm enjoying it, and feels like I'm sharing.
And you're giving back too,
Yeah,
kind of.
yeah, yeah, and it's really like cool to see when that light bulb, goes off for people,
Hmm.
or you just see their progress. I've got one of my students. He's gigging all the time, and
Nice.
I've watched over the last couple of years. He's progressed at it, and that's always a very
Yeah,
satisfying.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Now,
Well,
now he's competing for my gigs.
yeah, he's getting their gig.
Huh?
So again, I appreciate you taking the time. I know it went a little longer than expected, but and
Thank
I
you, man.
look forward
Thank
to
you for
playing
including me.
again. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, it's great. You contribute a lot to the music world, and then you're playing with so many great people, and you're an inspiration, and you're a great person. It's great to know you, and I look forward to playing more gigs and recording, obviously, when that happens. But again, thanks for joining the series, and I think your series. I'll have to send you the date when it comes out. I think it's in maybe March. I have to look.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm doing so many now. I was going to do it every 2 weeks that I'm going to be doing what I call three and a half conversation, three and a half, and then
Hmm.
coming out sometimes every week with a new one because I'm getting.
Okay. Okay.
I have Patrick Yondall. I have him scheduled later this month. I have Pete Ferenz next month, and then another guy named his last name is Taub. He plays more of the heavier music, David Taub. And yeah, it's been a great response. A lot of people have been wanting to participate. So
That's cool, man. I've so many things, and we kind of skipped over Patrick. Patrick is been a
oh
big
yeah,
part of my musical life as well. Yeah,
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 yeah. Great.
yeah. And he played on my second album, On the Level, which you're on too. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Well, cool, man. Thank you, man. Thank you.
All
I'm
right, man.
honored to be included, and look
Yeah.
forward to playing some music soon.
All right. Appreciate it. Take care, brother.